Hi Android developers. I just wanted to demonstrate the changes that are in Eclipse now with the new version of the Android SDK. It has changed slightly since previous version, and I wanted to try to clear up any confusion about the process for creating a new Android project. So once you have your environment set up in Eclipse, you can either go onto the toolbar, right? There's an icon here for a wizard to create a new Android project. You can also go to File and New Project. And then from those options, you can choose the Android drop-down list. It may look like this to begin with. And then you can choose an Android application project. And then from this point, or if you clicked on the option here to start a new Android project, both of them will take you to this screen. And it already looks like you made mistakes here, but you haven't. It's just warning you that these are things that are required. So first of all, application name. So this will be the name of your program. So let's just say this is Hello World. And that's the name of our application, and it's also using the same thing for our project name. Your package name is usually a domain name in reverse. Now for testing purposes, you could certainly keep this as example and the name of your project. And this is based on the idea that you are going to be taking this project and putting it on a market in order to sell it. And so the package name combined with the project name actually creates a unique bundle identifier. So I'm going to show you an example here. Say we're doing this edu.dccc.helloworld. Now the build SDK, this is saying what the minimum requirement is going to be, or the target is going to be for this application. In other words, what type of devices are going to be able to run this. 4.1 is currently, as of the recording of this video, the most recent release. And that means that only devices that support this operating system or that have it installed are going to be able to run your application. So if you go backwards, each SDK version that you go back, of course you increase the number of devices that will be able to use your application. So depending on what it's going to do, maybe you have special features that are only going to be available in the newest version, then you have to target it for that. But if it's a simpler application and it doesn't have any special requirements, then you may want to go back to earlier versions, because now more devices will be able to see your application from any of the markets that you'll be submitting them to. Generally, as a rule, if you are searching for an app on a particular device, it won't show up on your device if your device doesn't support it. So this is a key thing to try to keep in mind when you're developing, is who your market's going to be. The newer it is, the fewer devices will support it. So I'm just going to go with 2.3.3, which is supporting, that 2.3.3 is where it started to support tablet devices as well as phones. And then we have the minimum SDK required. Now this, you can see 2.3.3 is an API 10, so I'm going to choose an API of 2.3.3 here, API 10, that matches. Now we're going to leave custom launcher icon checked off. Create project in workspace. When you create or when you installed Eclipse, you set up an area for where your files would be saved in your workspace. So I'm just going to default it to go to that workspace that I have set up. Then I'm going to click Next. And this is a new screen, and haven't seen it in previous versions for developer tools. And this is just asking you for your launcher icon, and we have different resolutions for icons, and for this purpose we can just keep these defaults and click Next. So we'll click Next. Now this is what the first screen, a screen is an activity, and we're saying it's asking you, what do you want your first screen to look like? And so we're going to start with a blank activity in most cases. We'll do a separate video later on what the master detail flow is, but just to give you a preview, it's like if you select an option here, we're going to have a master that will show the detail. So these would be master items and these would be detail items. But we're just going to start with a blank activity. And we'll click next. You can give your activity a name, so you could actually give your screen a name. So if you left it as main activity, which is perfectly fine, you'll know that that's going to be your main home starting screen. And this is going to give us a layout that's going to match the activity name. So at this point, for beginning purposes, you don't need to make any changes in this until you sort of get a handle on how these are all working with the files that are created. So I'm going to click next. Now you may run into this type of an error message. Basically it's saying that the Android support library isn't installed, right? I'm saying required version 8, installed version not installed. So I'm going to choose to install upgrade. It's going to go in, look for the appropriate files that it needs, download them into my SDK, and I'm going to accept all and install it. So it's updating the libraries in my SDK. Okay, and it's loading the data over here, so it may take a few minutes depending on how fast your computer is. And while this is still loading, we are getting a warning here, and that's okay. Just wait for everything to continue loading. So now once everything has loaded properly, then I'm able to get in and I see in my Package Explorer my file listings for my project and my graphical layout in here. So other videos we have will working with our files in here and doing layouts and adding code in here, but I did want to go through the step-by-step process of creating a new project in Android because it has changed slightly and I wanted to try to clear up any confusion for you.